Hello, you're listening to Count Richard von Coudenhove Kalergi. Today is Monday, the 26th of August, and here's a couple of comments since my last video. Germany, a Syrian asylum seeker, Ala Sheki, has been found guilty of the murder of Daniel Hillig in Chemnitz last year, a murder that sparked a large-scale riot. He was sentenced to 9.5 years for stabbing the 35-year-old man at Chemnitz City Festival. It is believed that the Iraqi migrant assisted in the murder, but so far has not been arrested despite an international search warrant. Prosecutors stated that the murder had seen a high degree of brutality, that Mr. Hillig was not offered the opportunity to either escape or defend himself. Over 1,000 soccer supporters rioted in the streets, and the ADF held a silent vigil and march for all the victims of migrant crime, but yet no deportation. And still in Germany, new statistics for the German Federal Statistics Office has revealed that 25.5% of all residents and 42% of young children have a migrant background, totaling around 20.8 million, with migrants being defined as having at least one parent born overseas, with just over half holding a German passport. 13.5 million German residents are immigrants, with the main motivation being family reunification. These figures are up from 1.5 million from last year. These demographic shifts have caused cities like Frankfurt becoming in 2017 the first German city where native Germans are in a minority. Other cities now include Offenbach with only 37% German, Nuremberg at 44.6% German, Stuttgart at 44%. However, on examination of the figures, 60% of the under-18s come from a migrant background, and with Munich at 43.2% German. When age groups are taken into consideration, 42% of children under the age of 6 have a migrant background. And in Berlin on Wednesday, more than 1,900 police officers have been searching houses and premises all over the city in a massive raid based on alleged human trafficking for work exploitation. No further details are available as it is a major ongoing investigation, and maybe it would help if the NGO-sponsored people trafficking industry in the Mediterranean was stopped instead of assisted, and that German politicians accept their responsibility, admit that they were wrong. New Nuremberg trials should take place for those found guilty of dereliction of duty to the German electorate. And more from that canary in the coal mine, Sweden. Swedish police have said that the number of explosives incidents and bombings have increased by 45% on the same period last year. Statistics show that last year there were 83 explosions took place compared to 120 for the same period this year until the end of July. Last year saw a total of 157 explosions across the country, with police noting that 108 caused criminal damage. Police also say that the nature of explosive has changed in recent years, where hand grenades from the Balkan regions were most common, but now explosives like dynamite being stolen from quarries and construction sites becoming more common. The city of Malmo, with a population of 316,000, has been particularly high number of explosions, with 58 in 2017, 45 last year and 23 so far this year. And in June this year, 3 explosions within a 24-hour period. Malmo has a very young population, with 48% under the age of 35 and 100,000 of its residents born overseas, with the largest group of immigrants coming from Iraq. 14% of the population are foreign-born, and 54% of the population have at least one foreign-born parent. And I believe this morning a young lady was shot dead, and I'll probably speak more about that in next week's video. In Linköping, a city of 158,000 south of Stockholm, a Swedish police warehouse was destroyed after a bomb squad detonated a motorbike filled with explosives. The moped contained what was described as some form of plastic explosive covered with nails, was discovered on Monday afternoon by officers in a stolen property room, which led to the evacuation of around 170 personnel. The Swedish bomb squad was called in to make a controlled detonation, but something went wrong and a much larger blast than expected took place, with police conceding that the detonation did not go quite as they had hoped. The building was totally destroyed, with windows and nearby properties also damaged, but thankfully no injuries. The moped had been stolen in May of this year, and the explosive had not been discovered until the owner came to collect it. Police are examining that if there is any connection between the explosion in June of this year that damaged apartments and slightly injured 25 people. I'm reminded of the quote from Michael Caine in the film The Italian Job, "You're only supposed to blow the bloody doors off." And in Stockholm last weekend, 2 girls are believed to be around 15 years old were reportedly raped and at a We Are Stockholm festival last Saturday at around 8 p.m, with 2 alleged rapes being caught on camera. A further dozen cases of sexual assault being reported to officials, with 1 man being arrested, with the police giving a very vague description of the attackers as being men. Sex attacks have been reported at the same event, with over 50 cases of sexual harassment being reported during the 2016 event. And in a direct reaction to the wave of rapes and sexual assaults, the Swedish retail chain Kjell and Company claimed that they are selling pepper spray at record pace, with expected sales in August to be 90% greater than the start of the summer, and with another self-defence retailer reporting an increase in sales of 21% for July compared with July of last year. The threat of rape has been deemed so serious that police have advised women in Uppsala not to go to parks alone at night. The Swedish sexual assault, rape and gang rape crisis presents a feminist paradox for a government that is 44% women. For a country that prides itself on being amongst the most equal in the world, women are increasingly fearful of their safety on city streets. And in Rome, the Superior General of the Jesuits declared this week that no country had the right to turn away migrants, claiming lands belong to everyone, with Father Arturo Sosa Abascal saying, quote, "The challenge for a country that receives migrants is not only reception but integration, which means receiving the contribution that immigrants bring. This deluded fool should study the history of the fall of the Byzantine Empire to Islam. How many rapes and murders will it take for them to realise that allowing the followers of a 7th century ideology to arrive in Europe in massive numbers who do not want to integrate will eventually bring conflict in Europe? Is this further proof that the current Pope is actually a communist, or will it only end when the Vatican is turned into a mosque?" The Norwegian government has confirmed that it will not be taking any migrants rescued by the NGO vessel Open Arms and from the Norwegian vessel Ocean Viking, funded by Maison Sans Frontières, after a request from the French government, with the Norwegian Justice and Immigration Minister saying, quote, "The basis mechanism to prevent people from going to sea are not in place. This applies to a screening system that we can quickly return those who do not want to stay in Europe back to Africa. When will Merkel and Macron realise that you cannot have both a welfare state and open borders, or have politicians become too weak or corrupt to stand up for their own nations?" And Ireland says welcome. I think they're bringing in 100. And now for some domestic issues. As a follow-up from the last story, Ireland has agreed to take 100 plus migrants from the NGO-run human trafficking operation in the Mediterranean. One of the reasons I mentioned this is because of the way Extra.ie had described this. The headline reads, "Migrants stranded on a cruise ship to be taken to Ireland," with a photo of the offshore supply vessel Ocean Viking. Any Egypt can see that this is not a cruise ship. How on earth can Graham McGrath call himself a journalist and not spot the difference between the two? Can he tell the difference between a moth and a butterfly, a weed and a flower, a table and a chair, or day and night? This guy should never be let near a keyboard if this is what he can type. How much other garbage has this factually incorrect site passed off as news? Mostly from the Sudan, the Maltese Prime Minister agreeing that the ship to dock after spending 14 days offshore, but only after 6 EU countries agreed to take them, including Ireland. And in Cork, a man has been spotted masturbating in public on multiple occasions in Cork City, leaving a number of women frightened as they walk home. One lady who has spotted the man on a number of occasions now takes a different way home. After relaying her story on social media, other friends reported similar experiences. The man has been described as 5'9", short black hair, and appears to be Irish. How about that? Appears to be Irish. Why not describe those living in fear of migrant crime the same description? How come there is no description of the Corktown rapists? No description of the attackers who threatened a pregnant woman with having her baby cut out last Halloween? No description of the gang of 30 who walked into a Spar in Fairview and looted the shop before walking to the Dart station? No description of the West Dublin gangs attacking taxi drivers and delivery men. Where is the equality in this? Was Josephine Madigan as upset about the Garda film being kicked in the head as she was about the attack on the Muslim teenager in Dundrum? An attack which thankfully the police described, much to the annoyance of certain groups, as not having a racist motive. Crime is crime, and part of the prevention of crime is the issue of descriptions, and not just when they are Irish. In Donegal, Moville, an estimate 108,000 in state funding has been spent since January on security services, giving 24-hour protection to the Cashel Hotel, which is empty and was earlier earmarked to be a direct provision centre last November before being damaged by fire. The owners of the hotel, Bridge Stock Care Limited, have been involved by ordering security in Letterkenny and receive a weekly bill of €3,600. Department of Justice has also agreed to reimburse Bridgestock up to €5,000 per week for the cost of securing the hotel and making sure that the contract was still in place. Bridgestock Care also operates 2 centres in Mayo, Sligo Town, and by the end of 2018 had received a staggering 97 million since the year 2000 and charged 5.8 million last year. The cost of direct provision services is expected to exceed 100 million, with the inclusion of over 30 emergency accommodation centres opened in recent months, with services costing an eye-watering 1.25 billion since 2001, and whereas the direct provision centres for the 10,000 plus homeless Irish. A major corruption investigation is underway after Gardaí allegedly took bribes to stamp forms stating that they had shown the necessary documentation granted them the right to work and claim benefits. Up to 800 men and women from Pakistan and India paid 10,000 each, and it is believed that the Gardaí was in league with a Pakistani fixer in the high-level fraud who organised busloads of his fellow countrymen to travel to the Gardaí's station where he would stamp the documents. The scam is believed to have gone on for at least 6 years and may involve up to 1,000 people. The battle for Barra Street is entering its 7th week and still has daily support from Gemma supporters and supporters of free speech. I was there on Monday and Wednesday and hoped to be there on Friday but wasn't able to attend. Very interesting to see Gemma's interview with Lord Christopher Monckton. I think he's an excellent speaker and I'd love to travel down to Waterford to see his speech tonight, but unfortunately I can't. But so there are a couple of thoughts which are my own. Thanks for listening, good afternoon and good luck.